Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. My name is Silverdirge, and we are finally wrapping up the After Hours Gaming League. It's down to the finals tonight as the B Division kicks off with Google, Amber, and Intel. This is a best-of-3 series for tonight, and it is going to be super exciting. I don't know about you guys, but these are going to be amazing matches. So Google Amber is competing on behalf of a charity called Charity Water, a nonprofit organization bringing clean, safe drinking water to people in developing nations. Funding sustainable water solutions with, of course, developing areas. Intel, on the other hand, is opting to go for a more local route, playing on behalf of United Way of the Columbia Willamette, a local nonprofit working to build stronger communities in the metro area around their region. And they are going to attempt to break the cycle of poverty for kids and their families by focusing on stability, on connection, and successful education for young children. You can always get involved by giving, advocating, volunteering, and moving children in local areas out of poverty. Their success is our success, of course. Children are kind of the future. Maybe. Sort of. Something like that. But all that aside, we are here for League of Legends, so let's go ahead and hop into champion picks and bans. Google Amber will be spawning on the blue side, Intel on the red, and oh, excuse me, a little bit of a mix-up there. I'm not sick anymore, which is good. I have finally recovered from my sickness over the past couple of weeks, but a little bit dehydrated after kind of the sunshine. Like, I'm from Seattle. What is this sunshine you all speak of? I just can't catch a break. Anyway, here we go. Google Amber on the red side, Google Amber on the blue side, Intel on the red. Now, we do have a pretty eclectic selection of banned champions. We're getting rid of Ryze, Zyra, and LeBlanc for Google. Now, Intel's getting rid of Rengar, Kha'Zix, and Evelynn. And what a jungle-centric ban this is for Intel. They're trying to focus down Google Amber, not letting them pick up Kha'Zix, which was played during the semifinals. Also not allowing him to pick up, just Kha'Zix. But I believe Rengar and Evelynn might have been banned back then. I'm trying to remember. No, actually they weren't. So that does it. They're just trying to eliminate everything that Google Amber could potentially throw in their direction. But on the opposite side of the table, removing Ryze, Syndra, and LeBlanc. Now the funny thing is, since the introduction of Braum, which has been picked up there by Google Amber, Zyra has been a very favorable champion as a support role to play against Braum. A lot of the stuff that she's got in her kit can really pack a punch and mess around with the idea of defense that Braum really likes to focus on cycling towards. So I'm not surprised to see that Zyra ban to try to keep away from Intel's hands anything on the support role that could potentially counter this brand new champion. Ravenite will be opting to pick up Elise for his teammates there. That's going to be a fun little jungler. But on the opposite side of the board, that will be a Vi. So Ryze and LeBlanc, mixed success throughout the AHGL. And the scary thing is, a lot of teams kind of forget about the Ryze players. I don't know about you guys watching, but there do seem to be a rather large proportion of top lane Ryze players, and the danger of Ryze is if you leave him alone for long enough in that top lane, he will farm up, he will feed, or get fed, and then you just continue to feed him a bunch of champions and minion lines of stuff. He'll get to the point where, yeah, he may give up a couple kills early on, but once he hits that power spike and is allowed to just sit in lane and recover, he will be an absolute monster towards the late stages of the game. Not surprised to see that getting banned out. We'll finish the pick and ban phase. Now, I was notified by the captains that if there was a substitution pick, they would message me, and it looks like these are going to be the finished lineups. We've got Braum, Braum, Corki, Jax, Evelynn, and Ziggs for Google. Intel is going to take up Sivir, Vi, Renekton, Karma, and Orianna. Now let's think about what they're really aiming for. given these champion selections. There's a lot of poke coming out here from Intel and a lot of heavy protection that they're not going to be too worried of anything that the enemy throws at them. You've got a Braum, you've got an Elise, and a Jax, so there's going to be a fair amount of crowd control here from the Cocoon off of Elise, not to mention the Counter-Strike here off of Jax, but the troublesome thing is the really only source of initiation will likely be off of Elise's skill shots there, or Yarius perhaps on that Braum, not afraid to get up in the face of the enemy team. Intel running a little bit more of a classic lineup, Kenta Neko grabbing at Sivir, which has been kind of a signature AD champion for a lot of players in this series. Yeah, well, I guess in this entire season, really. So, here we go. That's Kenta Neko's Sivir with AFK's Karma supporting him. As we head into the 3-minute spectator delay, let's go ahead and open up the summoner spells. So you can go ahead and take a peek at that. So we have pretty much an identical lineup across all the lanes. In fact, they're completely identical. Surprised not to see Orianna or Ziggs be comfortable enough to take Ignite. Now, a lot of the time, having that Ignite versus a summoner heal lane, you kind of expect one player to expect, oh, say I'm gonna be able to kill you off a little bit earlier, or oh, my power spike technically hits earlier than yours. For most of the time, I do see that in Orianna, so I'm surprised to see that she's opting for that heal. Maybe a little bit frightened there of Frozen Fire running Elise. Now, the troublesome thing about Frozen Fire is he ran Kha'Zix throughout the semifinals and was an absolute monster. Kha'Zix both games 2-0 over security metrics. Now, running Elise this time, and I don't, off the top of my head, I don't believe Elise was banned out during the semifinals, so this is going to be a very different approach here that Google is taking against Intel. Intel with, of course, that really tanky lineup. You do have those ball carriers there for Orianna. Achilles running that one, but Xerox and Super ALA, that's going to be a Vi with, of course, the Vault Breaker, not to mention Assault and Battery being able to make a beeline for the backline. A press R to kill sort of initiation there for Intel, not to mention you also have Renekton. Renekton with the Slice and Dice, not to mention he also gets pretty farmed and itemized. He's going to also pack quite a bit of a punch, not to mention he can also ball carry, and the Slice and Dice is a bit of a penetrative ability, making a beeline for the backline, just like his fellow jungler there. And with 20 seconds left on the spectator delay, I do want to take a quick moment to thank you all for supporting us throughout After Hours Gaming League's Season 4, and as we wrap up the rest of the season, do want to remind you guys, don't forget to keep an eye out for Season 5 next year. And of course, all these teams from corporations are playing for charity. The grand finals will be held not this weekend, but the following weekend, so the very last week in May, with the match happening June? No, not June. May 31st. I'm blanking out there. May 31st, I believe 1 p.m. Pacific time on this channel, streamed live from the Red Bull Studios down in California, so keep an eye out for that. We're bringing you the A Division Finals live in a couple of weeks, but this is the B Division Finals, as Google Amber competing for Charity Water, which is, interestingly enough, the same charity that both of the A Division teams are competing for, so that will be Microsoft One and Amazon Prime competing for the same charity that Google Amber is. Intel, of course, competing for United Way of, as I blank out in the name, United Way of the Columbia Willamette. I hope I'm remembering that right. Here we go. Best of 3 series between these guys. We do see, of course, the Legacy skin coming out from Ravenite on Jax up in the top lane, so that will be that teleport running for both these top laners. That's going to apply quite a bit of pressure, not to mention the duelist potential out of both of these could definitely swing around a lot of those dragon fights, so keep an eye out for their presence with the teleport. As Jax and Renekton head up to top lane, I'm trying to remember or think really, if they clash together up in that top lane, who's going to come out on top? And I'm honestly going to have to say it comes down to whether or not Jax can survive a lot of the early aggression from Renekton. Renekton is, of course, more of a cooldown champion. He does sustain off of, work his skills off of Fury, and tends to, if he has enough control of the minion line, he shouldn't have too much of a problem here coming up against Jax. But here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We are spawned onto the rift. And I, of course, add one more time, thank you all so much for joining me. Flying solo tonight with no co-casters. We do want to extend a huge thank you to Malphus X for his work throughout the season. And shame he can't be here with us tonight. He will be sorely missed. Playing his trombone with his army of other fellow musicians. And as I try to adjust a little bit the music, a few more of the sound effects. Hopefully it's not too quiet for the stream. Sorry, I did notice that earlier. So here we go. Hopping back into the rift. Lots of good luck, have fun, and lots of cheerful jibes between these two teams. Taking line of scrimmage across the river. Surprised there aren't very many heavy invades, given that trinkets are, of course, now on that 30-second cooldown and have been for a while on the upcoming patch notes. Not a lot of adjustment to that. Oh, Tomato Orange has crossed the threshold. He's now pinched between Kenta Neko, AF Cow, and the jungler here. Xerox will initiate. Tomato Orange, you are far out of position. Here we go. Summoner Flash, maybe? There we go. There we go. Tomato Orange will survive that, but after one heal and a flash has been burned, Tomato Orange will escape out of here with no summoner spells, but also no first blood. So a close call and a pretty high cost. Considering he did that right in front of Vi, they will have some sort of sense or a timer on whether or not Tomato Orange will get his summoner spells back. So look out for that. Despite Vi beginning at blue buff and Frozen Fire beginning at his red, maybe we'll see Vi coming back to gank in that bottom lane. It's always easier, despite there being a Braum's presence in that bottom lane. Yarius on Braum wouldn't be able to do much to stop an Elise repel, or not the Elise repel, the Vault Breaker for Xerox, because that is still a bit of a gap closer. We'll keep out for Vi. Do you want to see that aggression in that bottom lane, considering that Corki is now fairly vulnerable? So here in this top lane, I was wondering about the initiation between these two champions now. They're both melee, have to get up in front, and Jax tends to be a bit more of a monster when it comes to duelist potential when he hits approximately level 6 with the Grandmaster's Might, not to mention the Dominus from Renekton, but that's going to be defense versus offense at the end of the day. Jax's massives are going to allow him to hit for a lot harder in a shorter span of time if Renekton doesn't time his itemization correctly. So here in this mid lane here, wow, Achilles taking huge amount of patience trying to clear out those lanes rather efficiently. Now in that bottom lane, Kenta Neko really flexing the skills he has on that Sivir. Trying to scale as best as possible and up against Corki. Now Corki, mixed amount of presence really throughout competitive play. We'll see how Tomato Orange wants to run that Ravenite, running down fairly low and forced underneath his turret. So there's that early aggression from Renekton I was kind of expecting throughout Champion Select, and he'll have to be careful of that. Yarius trying to initiate here on the Kenta Neko. 2 hits of his passive sitting there, not going to be enough to continue proccing that one. But Tomato Orange is solo, and so is Ravenite, but unfortunately there's no Ignite in that top lane. So Super ALA could definitely have the upper hand here, but doesn't have that chance. Frozen Fire decided to make his presence known in the mid lane, will oust out Orianna. Now in that bottom lane, oh, Yarius and Tomato Orange are in a precarious position. Here comes Vi around the corner. She has managed to make her way into the enemy jungle. Will catch out Frozen Fire, who's trying to duke things out. The mid laners are on their way. The repel coming up, coming down. Xerox now taking quite a bit of damage, and there's that flash out of the way. Frozen Fire losing out. Unfortunately, lack of a response from the mid laners leads to Frozen Fire a little bit too antsy to remain in this lane. Losing out on a lot more of that jungle potential, not to mention now Xerox is on the back side being able to successfully gank this bottom lane. We'll see how many other summoner spells could be burned here. Yarius with 200 health, Tomato about half. Good dodging of the skill shots. Will return back to lane. The Red Baron flying back in. Not too much pressure. But Google Amber, they expect to survive in that bottom lane, need to have a little bit few more wards. A little bit more vision to keep an eye out for, of course. That Vi, Tomato Orange, kind of vulnerable until he gets his summoner spells back, or at least itemizes to Valkyrie. Up in that top lane, here comes Frozen Fire trying to back up Super. But a slice and dice will keep him away and safely. Achilles there in that mid lane. A few more bouncing bombs than he would have liked Calvincible will be able to take out a lot of pressure. Here, Xerox, again, trying to respond. These junglers are everywhere this match, and you usually don't see that all too often, but hey, Grand Finals, might as well bring out all that you've got laid down on the table. Oh, nope, not gonna look for anything else. Oh, Yarius trying to block a little bit more damage here from Kantaneko. Now, as this bottom lane plays out, it really depends on how well Karma can initiate onto Corki without Braum getting in the way. And of course, Braum, being such a massive support champion, does tend to stick himself between his team and the enemy team. Just the way he's designed and really relies on Kantaneko being able to shred through Braum. It comes to a bit of a chicken race, really, when it comes to playing Braum. Can you out-damage him, maybe psych him out to backing up, or perhaps dying, and thus revealing the rest of his team? We'll keep an eye out for that. Meantime, in the mid lane, interesting itemization choices. We do have that double door, and so Achilles is looking for that early itemization. Hopefully that will pay off in a kill with the double Dorans. Whereas Ziggs is going to look for continued sustained aggression with the Chalice of Harmony, building up to that Athenians as an excellent first item. Mana regen as well as magic resist, so expect Ziggs to begin scaling ahead of Orianna if she can't get a kill in this mid lane, and of course not taking Ignite is going to hurt that potential in the mid lane. A couple more bouncing bombs, and good placement of the Hextech Minefield. Now forcing Achilles to run down really low on mana is going to be Ziggs' kind of mantra there in that mid lane. Gotta keep an eye out for that. Pressure Orianna enough to burn down the mana and then initiate for a kill, considering he does have the Chalice of Harmony. He's not going to worry about his own mana problems too much, so Calvincible, a lot of options there. Now here in the bottom lane, I do like the usage of the mantraed Inner Flame by AHGL, planting down the Soul Flame and letting the second proc deal damage behind the Braum shield. Now up in the top lane, we do have level 6 ultimates still available, so keep an eye out for Grandmaster's Might and the Dominus. Now, I want to see Jax use that a little bit earlier before the Dominus comes up. Of course, a little bit more tankiness. Spell shield being planted there, unfortunately. Kantaneko just a little bit too late to stop any of that. And still, no first blood, 7.5 minutes in. These teams are neck and neck, and really not a huge significance when it comes down to the creep score, except for that bottom lane. A long range from Corki, but initiation's up in that top lane. The flash out of the way. Great counter strike underneath the tower, but the second tower shot on Super ALA, and the Dominus is going to keep this Renekton alive. So a good attempt in that top lane. A little bit of a misplay to slice and dice underneath the turrets. Probably not what he's looking for. As Ready for Night clears out the wave, he's going to remain in lane. Vampiric Scepter, a little bit more sustained, and Pickaxe by, and a long sword here for Renekton, opting for a fast Last Whisper, but Achilles in that mid lane could end up seeing first blood drawn on himself, but Summoner Heal trying to bait things out, and Shockwave will whiff. So there goes a lot of the kill potential for Achilles. We do also see Calvincible throwing down a Mega Inferno Bomb just to try to catch out another kill on Achilles, but that's going to only be a flash and burned there as the blue buff gets transferred over to Ziggs. Expect him to continue to be a monster here. What a whiff. That could definitely have been first blood had either of those two ultimates connected properly. Achilles, good job surviving, but without that flash, he's going to be a little bit vulnerable. He doesn't have, say, a satchel charge like Calvincible does to keep him out of harm's way. And Xerox, a little bit gutsy there, diving underneath the enemy turret without any sort of backup. Will also burn his own flash, and up in that top lane one more time, a Counter-Strike initiation from Revenite, keeping Super ALA, and this is that sweet spot. When Jax gets his passive built up and that attack speed is available, he's going to continue dishing out some damage. Super needs to rely on that itemization again. Keep Jax out of the way, opting for a Blade of the Ruined King. Really hope that's not a Blast Whisper build first here on Renekton. Not a lot of AD to begin with if you go straight for the armor penetration, but there we go, the slice, the dice. Grandmaster's Might getting burned, and Dominus isn't up yet. That is going to be a lower cooldown there on Jax's ult, but as that disappears, Super, there we go. There's a Dominus getting popped there. Perfect timing, the slice and dice, and the Cole, the Meek. Maybe one more? No, just an auto attack. So Super ALA will take first blood in a trade-off for that mid lane turret. The first turret of the game going to Google Amber, playing this incredibly carefully here against Intel. Despite losing Jax up in that top lane, they are in a pretty comfortable spot. With, of course, Tomato Orange farming up fairly well. And the mid laner staying approximately even. Considering that mid lane turret is now out of the way, that's going to be Orianna left in a pretty vulnerable position. Oh, great ults coming out here from Tomato Orange. The pot shots taken on the backside of Kantaneko. And here's that poke potential I was speaking about earlier for Google Amber. You have the Ziggs bouncing bombs, you have Corki's ults, not to mention also perhaps Phosphorus Bomb for good measure. The additional visibility that it will provide will keep everyone in Google Amber in a more comfortable position. Going back to buy with 100 creep score, 3,000 gold in his pocket. Of course, the BF sword being purchased there, and a lot more itemization. That's a lot. 30 creep score will do that to you. They will, both marksmen will return to lane at the end of the day. Additional movement speed and a couple more potions for Corki is going to keep him in a great spot. So here comes Ravenite up in that top lane. Now Jax at this point just needs to come back into the game, get farmed up. 20 CS behind the Bilgewater Cutlass to the Tiamats. And actually also a grab for the Vampiric Scepter. So here we go. Renekton opting for multiple components of core items rather than rushing them immediately. As Jax was earlier, a lot of wards being placed down by both teams. Now dragons on everyone's minds as the first turret falls. Invincible clearing that pink ward, of course. There we go. Loss of vision. Frozen Fire on the backside is going to get spotted out. A few more pings through that lower half of the river. Now the tension here is both of these teams want this dragon so badly, but at the end of the day, Super is in position. Tense 2v3 positioning in this upper river, and as the pings come down, looks like they're going to try to group up, maybe apply some pressure to this bottom lane before opening up for a dragon, but no, looks like AHGL is going to be on the backside, completely exposed from Kantaneko. On the hunt, being burned there. Ooh, a little bit of a strange initiation. Here comes Yarius throwing down that fissure, but no, not going to be a whole lot. Oh, burned ultimate also from Xerox, but a great ball carry will lead to Tomato Orange's death with the shockwave. Great use of that placement. No chance to flash or use that summoner heal. Wasn't able to do a whole lot. Great timing there from the Orianna ultimate with the Chalice of Harmony. That's going to be enough, though. That wombo combo was brilliantly placed, but oh, Kantaneko, don't get too separated out from his team, trying to rejoin them for that dragon. And despite Tomato Orange having gone down, the cooldown, or the revive timers are low enough that I'm not so sure if Intel wants to go for this quite yet. We do have that teleport back up to the top lane, so Super doesn't have that online anymore, but Ravenite will. If Intel goes for this dragon, that's going to be tense. Ravenite will still be able to respond by teleporting down to the bottom lane, and Super can't. This is the perfect opportunity for Google Amber to start initiating for that team fight. They will have a guaranteed 4v5 unless if Renekton, no, actually not going to give Jax a chance to teleport down. Good smite out from Frozen Fire with the repel, sealing out that dragon. The effort from Intel has been wasted. AHGL getting caught out of position, but so is Achilles, separated out from the rest of his team, but no focus from Google Amber is going to allow for a kill on any member of Intel. Now, as everyone goes back to reset and rethink items, yes, that was a loss of a dragon and the mid lane turret from earlier, but the turrets are now evened out since Super's presence up in that top lane and the first blood drawn on Ravenite is going to keep Renekton in a pretty comfortable position. He's still approximately 10 or 20 CS above his opponent in that top lane. He's going to dish out quite a bit of damage. Now, the funny thing is I do see a lot of Renektons rushing, of course, that early Ravenous Hydra, and at the end of the day that will help him out a little bit more. Additional damage. Offense is a great way to utilize a little bit of that defense. Just scare out the enemy team from initiating on you if you pack enough of a punch. But no, he will see Frozen Fire coming around the corner. He knows he probably shouldn't hang out here, but oh, he's still within range of a cocoon. Great dodge, but now he's too close to slice the dice. He's trying to initiate 2v1. Here comes the Dominus on the backside, but oh, no, Ravenite will be able to beat him at his own game as Xerox kind of puts himself in a weird pinch looking out for Frozen Fire. We'll see him in the corner, the Assault and Battery, and a flash out. Frozen Fire doesn't want to get initiated on. You don't know. Well, no, you actually do know where the enemy is. As Oriana walks over that ward, she would have been seen pushing the lane, so Frozen Fire just doesn't want to deal with Xerox and the potential dueling power that Vi has up against Elise, despite having both Jax and Ziggs also available. Looked like more of a panic flash than anything. Not quite sure why he decided to burn that, as Xerox just psychs him out a little bit of his Assault and Battery. I want to see Intel using that a little bit more efficiently. Don't get caught out and don't initiate on your own. There are so many good initiates here on this team. You have On the Hunt from Sivir, you have the Assault and Battery from Vi, and you have the beefiness from Renekton with the innate tankiness that Dominus will provide in a full team fight. And of course the Wombo combo from the Shockwave here on Achilles is going to pack a huge punch. Intel needs to get back in the game mentally if they're going to take the edge over the opponents. Well, Frozen Fire trying to counter jungle here. Not a lot of presence from his laners. Unfortunately, not able to steal anything away. Couple pings going down. Not a huge response, just the support players. And as I talk about the support players, let's take a look really quickly at kind of the pattern that Karma has been having in response to Braum. Any sort of the missile barrage that we see coming out from Corki has been met with an Inner Flame or a Soul Flame from Karma, so she's trying to constantly trade out damage and allow Kent and Neko to focus. But oh, here comes the teleport on the backside super, getting it caught out by a cocoon, going to miss out a lot of damage. Xerox engaging here, man, enough tankiness to out-survive the Mega Inferno Bomb. Oh, Shockwave, second one will completely whiff. Super separate from his team as 4-5 members focus him down. No Ravenites on the backside trying to slay AF Cow, but Calvincible will take that kill. Kenta Neko eliminates the Spider. But that is a 2-for-1. A super way too far out by himself with nobody on his team to follow that one up. Now Achilles is left incredibly vulnerable. Don't want Jax up in front of your face, and not to mention a long-range poke from Jax, or no, Ziggs, excuse me, will leave Achilles away and out from his own jungle. Good plays here from Google Amber. Really unfortunate timing coming out here from Intel Super ALA trying to grab the enemy team, but his team is not at his back, and that's, as an initiator, you really don't want that to happen. They'll put you in a precarious spot, and when you go down, your entire team doesn't really have much of a really powerful tank line to protect their backs. AF Cow would also die there earlier. Karma, not a particularly escapable support champion, relying on, of course, just simply the utility she provides to the team. As we are just a couple minutes shy of the 20-minute mark, we have one dragon down and 3 turrets eliminated on the board. That's just simply Google Amber's pressure across the map, allowing them to really focus down on objectives and respond to the mistakes that Intel is making, especially off that team fight there, taking up that turret and then backing away slowly. They're playing for a long shot here. They want to get Frozen Fire with the ganks. Keep them coming. Keep these teams, his teammates afloat. Now Ravenite, if you get a Fed and farm Jax, that's going to be even more frightening than a Renekton, who, of course, he's not going to scale as powerfully as Jax will from here on out, despite him pushing out the lane and having the vision available. Super ALA cannot take too much focus down from the enemy, giving up additional kills here to Jax. Jax now finishing up that Blade of the Ruined King to the Ravenous Haida. And of course there is that attack speed off of Jax. He's becoming such a duelist and able to be pretty much the anti-champion to end all anti-champions in that top lane. Gotta keep him off of both Oriana and Sivir. They're going to survive this one. Good wave clear coming out here from Ziggs as the mid lane siege comes up. A little bit of a desperate push from Intel, and again, they don't really have a way to pressure anything at this point. They need the vision to do so, and they really don't. Let's take a look at what they've got. Really kind of the focus points are the dragon and a couple of entry points in towards the enemy side, whereas the entire river is lit up for Google Amber. 2 pink wards. Even dragon has respawned, and that is available. So nobody wants to back up here. Super's teleport's not available, neither is Ravenite's. So they need to turn around and try to keep these lanes a little bit more protected. A good strategy here for Intel, perhaps focus down or bring focus to a tower, or pull somebody up to that top lane, or multiple people up to the top lane. Have Renekton push a little bit and try to distract Google Amber, but it doesn't look like they're going to fall for anything related to that as they move in for the dragon and try to keep Renekton as far away as possible. Pings again going down. They have pretty decent vision over the enemy team, but of course the red trinkets are going to clear that too. Picked up here for Google Amber as opposed to the one on Intel. We'll see who wants to dive for this dragon first. Walking atop a ward there is Yarius and a super trying not to get caught out of position. There's that explosive spiderling, and no, a little bit of more of a rotation. Not going to bother going for this dragon. The mid lane has opened up, and if they have the vision for it, they're going to siege up for this turret. If Intel can flank them from the side. Yarius is prepared for that though. Then here comes the assault and battery, not to mention the shockwave too, but it will only hit Frozen Fire. He's trying to repel out of the way, and again, Super Ale far out in the front without his team. Ravenite making a beeline for the backline. Xerox and Super will fall. Kenta Neko brought down quite low by Ravenite, flashing out of the way, and Calvincible as well. Good response and defense here from Google Amber. Ravenite again making a dive underneath the turret. Doesn't look like he'll pay for it with his life. Not enough range for AHGL. So great initiation here, and Ravenite being such a monster. Now 3, 1, and 2. He's starting to hit that sweet spot. And as he picks up the Phage, he'll be searching for his own Trinity Force. He's not afraid of a whole lot. Double buffed Jax and Farm, not to mention his team's now picking up their second dragon of the game, having outsmited Intel for the first one. This is Google Amber pulling ahead now, 33.7 thousand to 28. So 5,000 gold ahead of the opponents. That is going to be the amount of course, those 2 towers and 2 dragons ahead of the enemy. The creep score more or less evens out. We do have the deficit of about 30 to 40 across all the lanes except for the bottom, where we have a 50 count deficit there. Corki doing a lot better with the wave clear than on this server. Maybe we'll be seeing a static shiv, maybe not, from Sivir to try to get that wave clear out a little bit more efficiently. The choice between, of course, the duelist Phantom Dancers as opposed to that mixed damage consistency from the static shiv. Kenta Neko has to be incredibly careful. Hasn't died yet, so doing a good job trying to remain safe as possible, but it's hard to damage the enemy team when they've picked up a Braum. It's working out quite well in their favor. Now Google Amber earlier in that fight for the middle inner turret, excuse me, that was Braum, ready for the enemy team. They knew where they were, and that's a tough thing when you're trying to catch an enemy by surprise. Yes, they were rotating around past the dragon, through the dragon even, but knowing that the enemy's coming out from the jungle without even needing really huge amounts of vision. Good plays here from Google Amber and Intel. They need to go ahead and do something, not react to Google Amber. The moment you do that, you're giving the power of the entire game to the enemy. The Super now doesn't want to even bother dueling with Ravenite. He does see Frozen Fire now and is trying to get away from it. No, he's not going to bother going ahead and using the Dominus. No flash available, so Ravenite picking up his 4th kill of the game. Renekton has fallen a long way. Now that Jax has kind of reached the pinnacle, he's going to continue to scale incredibly hard, and he is the shredder of towers. Expect him to eliminate that one in the top pretty quickly as the rest of his team tries to drag some attention through the mid lane. There we go, eliminating also the pink wards. And hopefully we don't see any more of those strange fights coming out here from Intel. Gotta be careful, trying to set up a death bush, but really there's no reason for Google Amber to go into the enemy jungle that far quite yet, so no options there. Not to mention they also have that ward over the corner. Calvincible, oh, cheeky plays here. Braum stealing the big Wraith away from Vi. As the options run low here for Intel, not a lot to continue farming off of as their lanes are not close enough for them to safely go ahead and pick up a few more creep scores. They need a little bit more vision, they need those red trinkets, clearing out the massive amounts of vision that Google Amber has had. And if you take a look at the minimap, earlier that was Google Amber lighting up the river, but as they continue to press an advantage and eliminate the towers, they're moving the wards up as well. I like this play, and having that vision is so crucial. Good responses out here from Google Amber. They are a bit of a seasoned team here. Unfortunately, since there are limited 8 spots in the A division, haven't been able to make it. I believe they were defending, or at least contestable champions from the A divisions last year. And instead, trying to settle here for the B division, trying to show Intel, yes, they did belong at the A division, but they had a bit of a rough bracket. If I remember correctly, a really rough bracket through the regular season, which put them into the B division. So Google Amber bringing out the big guns for the finals with pride on the line, trying to clear a little bit more vision. Here comes Yarius. The rest of Intel really grouping up. Not a lot of plays when you think about it, ladies and gentlemen. There isn't a whole lot of presence coming out here from Intel. When they're coming in for a fight, they're reacting. And reacting is really not the spot you want to be in if you want to try to take control of the game. Here comes Blue Buff getting grabbed here from Corki. I like that, especially since he's going to continue poking out with a huge amount of damage on his ultimate there, the Tomato Orange. Also confident to wander around by himself just a little bit, considering the heavy ward coverage they have over the enemy. Now, as that bottom inner turret is vulnerable, this is Intel trying to do their best to cover their bases, but unfortunately the enemy team nowhere near that. And we do have Renekton trying to push out that top lane. A split push strategy, or perhaps just distracting the enemy team, is an option here for Intel, also catching them out of position. You have a Jax up in that top lane alone by himself, and the board coverage would really be able to catch up most of the enemy. But of course, if all of Intel focuses down Jax up in that top lane, they will collide with the rest of the team in the jungle. Gotta be careful for that. Lots of pink wards being placed down as well. As a 4-man push down the mid lane and Jax up in the top lane, that could be another strategy here by Google Amber. They do that and there's nobody on the enemy team that can stop Ravenite on that Jax, but oh, now here comes that fight over the jungle one more time, and here comes Google Amber even stealing away the jungle creeps. Now here is Intel completely starved out of really any resources. It's only been a handful of minutes since that I guess 6 minutes since that second dragon of the game. Now the gold difference has ballooned to 7,000. There's the creep score slowly pulling ahead in favor of Google Amber just across the board, and further in their favor, hitting the 200 mark for all the laners there. And even Elise picking up quite a few creep score for herself, as well as Braum, of course, with the face of the mountain. There's a look for that third dragon of the game. They're going to pull ahead by 8,000 now, and trying to close out this game. They cannot delay because Sivir will continue to scale. If they can get Kenta and Neko nice and farmed up, here's Zero on the backside. Could be a 4v3 situation, but no, not able to catch out the enemy. And that middle outer turret is so incredibly healthy. Not a single scratch on it. Kelfensible taking very good care of his lane. And that's going to leave Intel to go on the back foot, as both of the carries on Google Amber back out. Had they had the vision there, this is the perfect time to try to press in on that middle turret, especially when you only have Braum and Elise trying to defend. Unfortunately, they don't have the vision for it, not the confidence. Look at their placement. They're grouped up in front of the walls of their base. They don't have any vision. This is what Google Amber sees pretty much everything across the map. And Intel's really starved for any sort of knowledge about the rest of the map. Have to be incredibly careful about where the enemy is and try to clear out those wards. Again, it comes down to the vision wars. We now have 3 trinkets also grabbed there. Kenta Neko opting to help out his teammates there. And usually what happens for a lot of these after-hours gaming league games is it comes down to taking objectives, way too many objectives, and pulling out ahead in the gold count. But really, the marked thing and the surprising thing for me is it's not the case for this game. Oh, another duel in that top lane. Super is going to continue to lose out. The Trinity Force and the Blade of the King is just way too much. Here comes the Dominus as well as the Randuin's Omen. Oh, Raven Knight trying not to get caught out underneath the turret. No, he's going to continue sticking around, as we do have that trade-off. A bit of a cheeky play here from Jack's, a little overconfident Super ALA, burning everything to stop Raven Knight. But with a 1-for-1, the rest of his team is plenty strong enough to continue pushing down on the enemy. And as I was saying earlier, this game has been won by vision, not a lot else than that. Google, Amber, they know when and where to play safely simply based on vision. Really, that's allowing them to make the plays, not necessarily the space open on the map for the objectives. A lot of ways to win a game, and this is probably one of the safest, most efficient routes. Also keeps Intel incredibly starved for any sort of information they have about the map. Not to mention they still haven't really wandered out far past the walls of their own base. Now as Google Amber tries to escape through the jungle, this is Intel walking in blind. Super ALA again on the backside, separated out from the rest of his team, but Raven Knight and Frozenfire are not, and here comes Jax. Oh, assault and battery coming in here. Super ALA trying to be on the backside, and oh no, that shockwave has put Frozenfire closer to the enemy. AFK picking up that kill on Elise one more time now in a 1-for-1. The marksman for the jungler still not going to pack a punch. That's nobody touching Tomato Orange or Calvincible. A lot of resources again burned, and just Frozenfire dying there. Second death of the game. Kantaneko also falling there with the Last Whisper and the Zeal, not able to finish out the attack speed item. But look at the gold counts for the team. Yep, that's the starvation there, that 9,000 gold deficit just across the map. And as Super ALA again tries to initiate on the enemy team, not a comfortable spot for them. So many skill shots. There's that poking potential. Decided from Champion Select, not a whole lot that Achilles can do about that, especially when Kantaneko is dead. You're relying on Karma for a couple pot shots, but she doesn't do a whole lot of damage, so there's that poking composition. The dueling potential from Jax, a lot of kind of flexibility here in terms of Google Amber's approach to how they want to close out this game. As we're seeing a little bit more of that cleared vision. Now, again, that's Google Amber. As they retreated, tried to put that pink ward out in front of Baron. They do even have a ward over the base of the enemy and Intel. Now trying to spread out just a little bit, and that's what they need here. If they can keep that vision, they're going to have a lot more breathing room and try to catch out Google Amber. Again, make the plays yourself. Don't react to the enemy team, because the moment you do that, you're handing over the keys to the kingdom on the silver platter. You definitely don't want that. Xerox also really starved for itemization. Just take a look at the difference of these junglers right now. 6 assists to 1 in an additional kill on Elise, but at the end of the day, she is still looking at the components for a Warden's Mail. That will be her, a Randuin's Omen, that she's holding a Warden's Mail. That will be her third major defensive item, as opposed to just the Spectre's Cowl and the Spirit of the Ancient Golem there on Vi. Also explains why they kind of get melted pretty quickly, and Super ALA, 5 deaths there, does try to run in for the enemy team. He is the tankiest member, but unfortunately his team is so fragile he can't afford to dive in on the enemy. He has to stay behind and keep his team intact and try to push his team aside while being the forerunner and the focus of a lot of the fire for the enemy. Now as Super swapping out trinkets and trying to get back in here. Oh, Kantaneko, you cannot be out in front of your team. Gotta be incredibly careful of that. This is Intel not allowed to defend their turret at all. Not a lot of skill shots across the corner. Not to mention the walls. They don't have the option. No Nidalee, no nothing. Really, it's just relying on Kantaneko, and really this monopool is way too precious to burn. You also have On the Hunt, but wow, that turret, a couple more pushes. You just gotta wait around it. But that bottom lane is pushing out there for Intel, except they only have 1 turret to 5. As the backup, oh, here comes Intel. They're going to cede this tower to Google Amber, again opting for, let's play it safe, wait for them to come to us. And honestly, I like this a little bit better. They go ahead and cede this tower and wait for Google Amber to initiate for an inhibitor turret. And those inhibitor turrets can be incredibly hard to crack. There's only one way into the enemy base, and that is through that turret. And there's no around the wall pinch that Google Amber could potentially do around that inner turret. But as the entirety of Intel backs up, here's Amber starting on Baron preemptively, but the enemy team has vision on that, and Super ALA. Here comes the Dominus, and a good knock-up here from Braum. Again, they're beeline to the backline to Super ALA. You are not tanky enough to survive the damage from the enemy. Tomato Orange will be able to pick up that kill, and Ravenite, and eliminating one person, will try to run, but Kenta Neko is going to stick his neck out just a little bit too far here to that speed up from Karma, but not enough. Kenta Neko getting caught out of position from the crowd control here on Frozen Fire. Good skill shot there, and here comes that Repel coming down. We could be looking at an ace, folks. Oh, good cocoon. There we go. There's that ace. Brought to you by Frozen Fire. And Google Amber only losing Ravenite in the process, but he did his job, eliminating one person on the back line and scaring them a little bit before falling and actually burning the flash and Kenta Neko to secure a kill on that Jackson. Again, take a look at the summoner spells. We still have 3, I guess smite count, so 4 here on Google Amber, as opposed to 5 there. 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 5 on Intel, but the main difference being Achilles got melted down too quickly before he used Flash, and Super didn't even bother using that one earlier. He just needed Slice and Dice to get back to the enemy lines. As Ravenite respawns, the rest of his team is more than comfortable to go ahead and pick up this dragon. Going to set them now 14,000 gold ahead of the enemy team by 36 minutes. I have not seen a difference this large in a long time. So we'll see how Google Amber wants to go ahead and finish up this game. Barrel down mid lane. They do have the itemization for it. They may not have a full inventory as their opponents do. We take a look at the gold counts. Every single member on Intel, or on Intel, save for the supports, are behind 2 to 3 or 4,000 gold behind from their counterparts, especially the difference. Look at the difference between the marksmen. Just shy of 11,000 to 14,500 on Corky, and that definitely shows he's already got that Trinity Force, the second Trinity Force, the most expensive item in the game, being picked up there. 5, 1, and 6. Such a powerful Corky, but it really is all thanks to the pick here on Ravenite. I'm going to have to call that, that is Ravenite's difference. Big difference here. As he was allowed to farm up, he got a lot of kills off of Renekton. He's still lagging behind approximately 10 to 15 CS, but when you consider all the kills, I mean, every kill is approximately 18 CS. If not exactly, 15 to 18 CS. So he's technically still ahead in gold, regardless of the global objectives here. And we have a Jax that far ahead, he's incredibly frightening. The Ravenous Hydra earlier from Super ALA, not able to make a dent. He grabbed that a little bit too early in the game and actually finished it right when Jax hit the peak of his power spike. So it's that Ravenous Hydra not doing a whole lot in terms of stopping the enemy. He needs to be tankier. So maybe we could be seeing a Zhonya's Hourglass actually already finished there on Ziggs. Maybe one on Orianna is in order, but there is no income for Intel. Starved for gold, starved for vision. We have Google Amber knocking on the front doors, and Ravenite not afraid to sit on the opposite side of the wall. He's just hanging out and does have that Banshee's Veil. Not too afraid, but still trying not to get that item popped out. This could be the final team fight. Achilles, they have to be incredibly careful. Don't separate Super from the rest of the team. We need a good initiation, maybe a wombo combo, but more importantly, keep Kenta Neko alive. You keep the marksman alive, you keep the hope alive for additional continuous damage throughout the rest of the siege. Oh, Radovid's Omen being popped a little preemptively from Yarius as they're backing up. They're not afraid even to take a couple tower shots. The siege begins in the bottom as mid lane super minions continue to push in onto Intel's base. Achilles now down to about half health, as with the rest of his team. Super on the corner has been relatively safe, but with the rest of his team throwing out those pot shots and about half health. When this turret falls, this is Amber's cue to come in and initiate on the enemy team, trying to take out this inhibitor now. They'll be able to do so pretty successfully, not too worried about that. Oh, and no. Google, Amber, you have the opportunity to go ahead and finish out the game. They're trying to wait out for the enemy. Don't want to dive underneath the Nexus turrets. Probably not the best option for that. Waiting for that red inhibitor. There we go. Coming back up in. Oh, Super, you're thinking about it, but so is Zero. Charging up that. No, here comes the Flash, the Assault Battery, and a good shockwave, but only on a Yarius. That's not going to do a whole lot when you have Jax on the back line. Calvincible eliminating Vi incredibly quickly on the backside. Captain Neckle gets melted down before he reaches the safety of his turret, and so will AF Cow. And the rest of his team is there. Perfect ace in favor of Google Amber, and again, that's the power that they have. Not able to. Super ALA is not tanky enough to stop the enemy team, and Ravenite is too strong. Does the good games well played. It's called out across the map. We do have a surrender from Intel. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. And don't go away, we've got game number 2 between Google, Amber, and Intel for After Hours Gaming League Season 4 B Division Finals. Again, my name is Silverdirge, trying to fly solo for tonight. Unfortunately, Malphus X can't join us, but when we do see him next, give him a huge round of applause and a huge thank you for helping After Hours Gaming League cover all the matches throughout the season and up to the semifinals. We will be missing him at the A Division Finals. Unfortunately, he's not able to fly out to California. But for all of you out there, do give him a tweet. I believe at MalphusX. And tell him he is sorely missed. But stay tuned, guys. We got game number 2 heading your way shortly. Stay tuned. Google Amber up 1 on Intel.